Hey, what's up guys, this is MLG, and this is the part 2 of the 7C problem in gameplay um, situation. So, situation, I mean, thing I want to discuss. So, I had a couple exchanges with Null Inquisitor over Facebook chat, and it is a topic that has been a subject of this channel for a long time. But it's really interesting with the 7C second edition because we have a perfect, like, to me at least, is the best example so far of a good, I mean, in terms of an example, like, it's a great example of, a culture clash, like a rupture there is in this hobby, in the RPG culture. And it is a mechanical based rupture, but this difference in taste for certain type of mechanic ends up influencing two different culture of gamers. And this is really interesting phenomenon. Like, so basically what you have, if I tell a story, I'm gonna tell a quick story. So what I've noticed is that when the role-playing game started to being developed for some, from the 70s to the, I would say, early 2000s, so fucking like 30 some year, people have been playing a certain way. They play a task-based resolution, pass or fail, mostly. Most of the game were like that. Most of the game were like that. Maybe not all of them exactly like that. Maybe yet a little bit of variation, but it's basically that. Like, you have pass or fail, task-based resolution with a GM that tells what's going on. And so the players, depending on some kind of group, obviously, depending on some kind of social contract, maybe some people were more dynamic than that, but basically that's what it is. So you have the player that say, maybe my character will do this, or maybe my character is gonna do that, and then the GM say, roll for this, here's what happened, depending on pass or fail. And so people have been playing like that for the longest time. So GM, has been used and developed habits of playing that way. And there's still games that are being developed like that today, because these people, they grew up, now they have power, they have money, they have experience, so they design their own game, and they design games like that as well today. And so you have, and also these people, they've been playing for the longest time, so now they're getting older, they have less time to learn new way of gaming, they're comfortable in their group, they're comfortable in their way of gaming. So what they do is that they enjoy that their style. They end up having a whole culture. They play like that all their life, and they have fun with that type of environment. But the thing is that there is all kinds of ways that GMs in this hobby have been dealing with different kind of issues that these games provide, because a pass or fail, really binary resolution mechanic like that creates an environment, creates an environment where there is a lot of room for GM fiat. And what you see is that most of these traditional games, they have a GM screen thing, because you hide stuff behind. So the GM is hiding stuff from you. He's hiding his rolls. Some people don't roll their dice open, so that good for them. But most of them, they roll behind the curtain. And so what happens as well is, even if you roll the dice open, you still have the GM fiat where, oh, you fail, but I'm gonna make you do something that is not so harsh or whatever. How it is. So what happens is that in these group of gamers, there were some frustrated dudes and dudettes that wanted more. They wanted something different. So there was the Forge, which created a, which was just these guys and gals that they were like, ah, fuck off. I'm tired of playing like that. I'm tired of this bullshit. Games are saying something that they're not doing. It's not. It's not happening. They say it's a collaborative thing, but it's not. As a player, I cannot do anything or whatever. So I have to follow the rail of the GM. The GM is doing the quantum ogre on me all the time, and I don't have trust in him and all that. I mean, I know because I am the embodiment of that. You know, and I'm not alone. So, so these people on the Forge in the early 2000s, they started to create their own game and create the indie movement, and it's been like an experimental, like super. They went really far with it, and it's really great. They did so a lot of things, and they created games that they wanted to separate themselves somehow from the RPG, created what they call story games. And you know, some games have no character development at all. Some games are dice-less, some games are GM-less, some games are rotating GMs and duties, all kinds of shit. So there's that. No, and then we enter what I would call the modern era, where it's there is all kinds of trends in the RPG community. But the thing is that what we can notice, what I notice, is that the biggest trend there is it's to mechanically embodied narrative structure that helps collaborative storytelling. So the GM is a player like the other players, and they all have mechanics to allow them to tell the story a certain way. It's not just a GM that prep and then do the quantum ogre on the group, and then the story happens the way you want it. Now, you know, players have agency over their character story and the story of the group story, and all that. And there's all kinds of mechanics to do that. And the trend that we notice in design allowing that is called a procedural. I will say it's some kind of a procedural approach to design. So what it is that you have like systems and subsystems that have specific procedure on how you manipulate the rolls, the dice rolls, and how the player can, at character creation or not, dictate in advance what's gonna happen and what they want to achieve with that game. So it's this approach where the RPG has a goal, like the game has a purpose, the player has a purpose, and he's going toward that purpose, and the story that emerge comes from the journey toward that purpose. Now, you don't know if you're going to achieve that purpose, you don't know what's going to happen, but I'm aiming at that, right? Now, this seems to be a prerogative, mandatory for having a collaborative storytelling. Like, to the way the way I see it, and this is happening in 7C. I'm coming back to 7C. So the thing is that you need to tell in advance what you want from your experience. You need to tell in advance what you desire somehow, and then the dice are there to say how and if it happens. And so therefore you cannot, and that takes away the fiat. Because if you tell after the dice, you just play on the luck there. You need to tell before the dice, and then the game aspect emerge because the dice will tell. So this is the point that the people from before, I mean the traditionalists, I would call them the people who've been playing for. People who've been playing for a long time, they don't like that, because they feel like there's no surprise, and they feel like fuck that shit. Fuck it. Sorry guys. All right, so the traditional gamer, they don't like it because for them it feels like there's no surprise. You know in advance what's gonna happen, and then most of them, they never tried these games. Most of them, they never tried these games, so they don't even know that it's not the way it goes. That's something I've noticed as well. But it's really like, it doesn't work that way. When you tell thing in advance, it doesn't mean it has to happen. It doesn't mean it will happen. It is just that we are aiming at something, right? But the thing is that they feel like, oh, so I want to avenge my brother by killing the Duke. Well, now we know what the story is. No, you know what the story is about. Or you don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe you're gonna reach the Duke, but he's gonna be dead already. Maybe you're gonna reach the Duke, but he's not gonna be the way you think he is. Or maybe you're gonna die before that. You know, like, there's so many things. I mean, and the thing is that some of these people, what they feel probably is that it's becoming like a masturbation kind of exercise where you since everybody has been writing on their sheet what's gonna happen or the way it's gonna go, and they tell stuff before they roll the dice. It's like, okay, so I cannot fuck you up, like I cannot fiat you, I cannot. So therefore they lose their comfort zone, they lose their ability to be GMs, and now they don't feel comfortable about that. And so this is the rupture in culture, and this is the biggest trend that we see from the early 2000s to now is going in that direction. It's like the player want more agency in the collaborative aspect of the storytelling, and so therefore they need rules to facilitate that. So it creates so the designer, they create procedures, and these procedures demand to be transparent, like tell stuff in advance, organize the story together as a group, and then roll the dice. And so that is the thing that's going on. And 7C is a perfect example of that. So 7C first edition was like a traditional game where the GM has his idea in his head, they go through the motion, and then the players say, I'm gonna do this, they roll the dice, pass or fail, you know, GM tells you how it goes or whatever. Now in 7C second edition, what happens is that whenever there's a risky situation, an important situation that needs what they call an action sequence or a dramatic sequence. Now what happens is that the GM say, for example, okay, so the room, describe this situation. The room is on fire, and so depending on what you want to do, so the players say, describe the room on fire. The players say, for example, I want to leave the room. So GM say, no problem. That's gonna be 2 rays, 1 to leave, 1 to avoid damage. Then it's gonna be, and so that's the consequences. But you have an opportunity to look in the desk and find a letter for the king. So that's another raise, and that's it. So that's an opportunity, and then you have consequences. Consequences is damage, and the opportunity is that there is a letter. You see a letter on the desk that you can grab before, but you need more rays, right? So now then you roll the dice. So now you know what's up, and you roll the dice, and you calculate the number of rays, and you can use, as a player, this is where the agency comes, you can use the rays as you wish. I can grab the letter and take the damage, or I can leave the room, not grab the letter and take no damage, depending on how many rays I got. I can even look for something more if I have more raises, because that's allowed as well. So this idea of you know, like, manipulate the roll after you roll, and knowing in advance what you can get from a scene, and then narrating it yourself because you're the player and you choose to narrate that scene the way you want it. This is where the collaboration comes in. In the old 7C would be room's on fire. What do you do? Players say, I want to leave the room. Okay, that's I don't know, athletic and I don't remember the traits and the attribute in the game. And you roll them, you got it. So you escape the room, all good. That's the that's the basic task resolution approach to it. So instead, it's basically the big difference between task resolution and conflict resolution. You know, that is the whole thing. And to me this is where the clash in culture is. So the people who because the main argument is it slows down the game. It slows down the game. I would argue that it's not even slowing down the game. I would argue that it's not the same game. That's what I would argue. People, you know, Non-Inquisitor's main thing was like, it's gonna be so slow because now we're gonna have argument and we're gonna have a discussion about everything and all that. Yeah, you need a discussion because there's a group of people who wants to tell a story. It's not just one person telling the story. Therefore, you need a discussion as a group. So this is the type of game that allows that mechanically, so the player can manipulate mechanic as well. So it's not just I roll, I'm done, you tell me. That's super fast. One person tells everything. Boom, roll the dice. You see? That's the main difference. It's people they don't wanna have these conversations because they feel like it takes away immersion, or they feel like it takes away speed. So to summarize, the problem in gameplay, I think it's a clash. It's a cultural clash toward a trend that has been developed since the indie movement. It's the collaborative mechanics to reinforce collaborative storytelling as a group, and that creates this tension between GMs who are used to tell a story and prep and organize themselves to bring the player somewhere. Now they're not comfortable playing this kind of game because, and some player as well, they're not comfortable because they don't want to have this responsibility as well. So you have this rupture here, which is really clear, really simple, and it's kind of new in this hobby because back in the days you had one way to play. Now you have these two ways of gaming, I would say. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's real? Have you tried these game at least? You know, have you tried this game at least? Have you tried both? Have you seen feel the difference between both style, both approaches? I'd like to know how you guys feel and think about that. What do you see? Do you understand what I'm saying? And how do you feel? And you know, what's your perspective on this distinction and what's coming up in the future? Because 7C is still an RPG with a GM and a group, and there's even a GM screen for the second ed. I bought it. so you know, there is this thing going on, and it's really interesting. And 7C is actually a really good example of where you can bring a task-based resolution game toward a conflict-based resolution game, allowing for collaborative storytelling for real. That's really a good example. So, and you see with the people who didn't want to go for the second ed, they stayed in the first ed. For these reasons, I've noticed, like they feel like it slows down the game. They feel like it's not the same game, and they're not comfortable playing that kind of game. All right, so and for me, on the other way around, I don't want to go back to task-based resolution where the GM tells me what to do. I want to be able to manipulate the story myself, organize my narrative structures around the dice, and having all that open and create my own story as well at character creation. Because there's another aspect that I didn't mention here because it's too long video now, but also the character creation is You know, you create your character and you organize his character progression in a narrative way by formulating sentences that allow for um, objective that you want to reach, and you do that yourself. So the GM has nothing to do in how you wanna progress as a character narratively. You do that yourself on your sheet at character creation. So yeah, man, really good stuff. 72nd edition. Good job. All right, talk to you guys soon.